Hi everybody, I'm Jennifer Blevin-Smith with Integral Clinic Solutions, and you're watching my YouTube channel, Navigating the Business of Medicine. Today I want to talk about what is medical credentialing. A lot of people talk about credentialing and contracting in the same breath and in the same subject, in the same conversation, but it's very rare that you can find something that will just talk about the credentialing process and why it's important, what it is, and what are the next steps after credentialing is completed. Credentialing is a process that the insurance companies require for every practicing provider, whether they're a doctor, a physician assistant, a nurse practitioner, an occupational therapist, a respiratory therapist, a physical therapist, anybody that will be billing for services under their insurance, to be basically vetted. They want to ensure that the person that they will be contracting with, or hopefully contracting with in the future, and who will be providing services to their insured patients or their beneficiaries, are competent and that they are properly educated, they have no issues with any kind of criminal activity in their background, they understand how to practice whatever their specific focus is, etc. Credentialing is quite a process, and not only is it quite a process for the person submitting all of the information to the insurance company, but it's also a lot of work on the insurance company's side to ensure that they are checking everything closely and not missing anything. There is a reason why you have to submit so many documents and so much information on behalf of a provider to an insurance company, and why it takes so long for this whole process from beginning to end to be completed. When you are submitting a credentialing application, especially initially, re-credentialing can be a little bit easier, a little bit faster depending on your situation and the provider's situation, but it is still a lot of work. You want to make sure that, one, you're using a credentialing application that they accept, because maybe you have a credentialing application that is universal and it's missing some information that this particular insurance company is requiring during the credentialing process, or maybe they will only accept their states, like the Oregon has their own credentialing application for practitioners. You have to make sure you go through that application with a fine-tooth comb. No spelling errors, no omissions, or swap of numbers, where you go to put 1983 and your fingers get ahead of you and you put 1938. Those kinds of things. You want to make sure that you do the initial filling out, and then you go back through and you pay attention to all of the details, line by line, item by item. A lot of times the applications will ask for the provider in which it's being filled out for to initial and sign the bottom of each page, in addition to the at least 2 places that they will need to sign and date. Missing any of these will get rejected back to you to fix. Also, a big sticking point is making sure that all of the dates you enter for, whether it's their education, their trainings, their certifications, their job history especially, that they're congruent and they fit with one another. So basically, you want to make sure you put things in chronologically, and then you want to make sure that the dates match up. So if someone has a 20-year work history and they've worked in 3 different places in that 20 years, you want to make sure you go back and you've covered all 20 years that they've worked and you've listed the dates appropriately. If there are any gaps in employment, then you need to make sure that you have an explanation for that. They don't like seeing any gaps in employment or working. So if someone goes out on maternity leave for a certain amount of time, or they took a sabbatical, you need to make sure that you add those dates in there where it's appropriate on the application and explain why there was a gap in employment. You also want to make sure that any hospital privileges that it asks for, or any kind of hospital roles, that's explained and you have the proper explanation or titles, dates, those things. It's very important that if you don't know an answer to something, that you ask the provider, if you're filling it out on their behalf, why, what, who, so that you can put that information in there. If the provider fills it out for you, don't just take for granted that they did it all correctly. You want to make sure you're going through it with a fine-tooth comb and answering all those questions, correcting all of those errors before you submit it as well. Every time it gets kicked back to you to fix something, it delays the process of credentialing. Hopefully you can create one master one and then submit it to all the insurances, and hopefully they will all accept the same format. The CAQH is the same thing. It has all of the same information as you would put in a credentialing application, but a lot of payers want you to do a paper version instead of just using the CAQH. Now, it is a growing trend that they will use the CAQH, but you have to go into the CAQH just like you do the paper application and make sure that everything makes sense, everything is congruent, everything is covered, and you're not having any errors and you're not creating any questions when it comes to liability coverage and their work history and all of those things that we've talked about. Oftentimes in an initial credentialing application, not only do you submit the actual application that you need to make sure is very clean, very thorough, but you also have to submit the corresponding documentation to support the information that's on that application. So this includes any certifications or licensures, I should say. Any certifications for when they became the PA or the NP or the doctor with their boards. And if they were international medical students, you have to have all that additional paperwork and certificates to supply with it. And you need to make sure you have their DEA number and current certification. You have to have their medical liability insurance information and the company and who to contact. A lot of times they'll ask for a CV to be submitted, and you want to make sure the CV reflects exactly what's in the credentialing application, because if there's discrepancies between the two, such as work history, or something's not listed on one and it's listed on the other, they'll ask and be like, this is really odd, what's going on, and kick it back to you. Basically, they're going to make you do all the legwork, so it's easier for them when they review the application to go through and verify, oh yep, they said that they graduated medical school in this year, they go onto their database and their resources and they go, yep, that's true, that's accurate. Okay, next thing, oh, they said they did their residency here, oh yep, that's true, okay. And oh, they said that their medical license in the state of Oregon is good from this year to this year. Oh, yep, I went on to the board, I see that's accurate too, there's no false information here. And they just go through it, check, 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 check. Once you're credentialed with an insurance company, then that's basically their seal of approval that you are quote unquote good enough and approved to see any of their insured beneficiaries. The next step is they would send you a contract so that you can review and become an in-network provider. A lot of times you can still bill insurances after you're credentialed, but you will be billed as an out-of-network provider until you have that contract signed and effective with that payer to be considered in-network. So it is possible that once you get through the credentialing and you know you're credentialed with that insurance company, and then you're working towards the contract part of this whole sequence, that you can still bill those payers, but your patients will be billed and utilizing their out-of-network benefits. Some patients don't have out-of-network benefits. Some patients don't understand what that means, and that it could be a lot more money out of their pocket if they saw you during this. So this is during a time where you want to be very transparent with patients that you're seeing and communicating and letting them know that, you know, you're in the process of contracting, but you are credentialed and it's going to be billed as out of network, and they should check with their own benefits what out of network means. A lot of times they still won't, but at least you're doing your due diligence. The biggest thing I want to hit home in this video is you need to make sure that whoever is in charge of your credentialing, and if that's even you or you're expecting your providers to fill out the applications to help with the process, that they are as thorough, honest, and upfront with anything that could come up during the review of their background with the insurance company. Whether they've had any kind of issues with boards in states where they've practiced, or they had any issues in school, it all needs to come out and it needs to be documented and explained why in the application. Then once that application is created, it's a lot easier to maintain and add things to, just like your CV. Once you create your main CV or resume, it takes a while, but after that, maintaining it is a lot easier. Same thing with the credentialing application. So when you have to re-credential with these payers every 3 years, which is the most common time frame, at least whoever is in charge of it at that time, or if it's yourself, you only have to go in and add things and change some dates, whatever, in order to resubmit for re-credentialing. The legwork up front is a lot, and you need someone who is really good at attention to detail and understanding the whole process of what each type of provider or practitioner goes through in order to get their certification, their license, in order to be able to treat patients. If you have any questions for me, leave it in the comments below. If you have any tips on how to maintain this information to be able to provide to your credentialing specialist as a provider, please leave that in the comments below. And if you liked this video and it was helpful and you learned something, smash that thumbs up button, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I hope you guys are all having a really, really good start to your 2022 and stay healthy. Bye-bye.